Hello Blender lovers, let's do some footage stabilization. So let's go to the motion tracking workspace and then let's locate the file that we want to stabilize. Now I have this footage of my part of my Game Boy collection and it's quite wobbly. So let's say that we want to stabilize 80 frames of this. What we do now is we find a point of high contrast. This is perfect. Anything that's high contrast point, like one of these letters, would do fine. This edge here would be good. The edge of one of the D-pads would be fine, but here is an excellent point. So with the control key pressed, you just click. And these points you can scale and do whatever you wish. Or whatever you need. And when you have found when you have found a good tracking point, all you do is click the scan forward button here on the track menu, and it will track the point for you. And if at any point the tracking lost track of the point, let's pick a horrible point for tracking here, just so I can show you what you do, because you don't have to fear losing the tracking point. Okay, let's track this point. And here you see, at frame 12 the track stopped and this little preview window over here turned this horrible color. What you do then is just hit G for grab and put it back to where your point is now, and then you just keep tracking. It lost track of it again, so move it to that area and track again. And then you just keep doing this until the footage has been successfully tracked. Okay. You get the idea. Okay, let's just remove this because we don't need it. So, now we want to stabilize this footage. So we go to the 2D stabilization panel, click it, and add the tracking point that we have. So now the footage actually is stabilized, but we can't see it. So we go to the display panel, and you click display stabilized, and there we go. But you see the frame is wibbly wobbly all over the place, and you get these areas that will turn black or transparent in your final render, and we don't want that. So click auto scale. And now we have stabilized the footage. But it looks quite wobbly and weird, and we don't want this. So the way to solve this is you very rarely want to have your tracked footage actually super neat and stable. The only time that you would actually want this is if you're masking something and you need a stable area to mask because you want to use less keyframes. So to solve this, you change the location influence value, let's say to 0.5, to reinsert some of the shakiness, but we have successfully removed half of it, but this is still a little bit too shaky, so let's try 0.7. And this is all individuals, you just find what looks best for you. Okay, so now we have a bit of camera wobble, and we have removed most of the stationary wobble. So let's say that we are done here, and now we want to render this. So we go to Compositing, and we click Use Node. Backdrop is optional, but I like to have it, so let's click Backdrop and Auto Render. So, the Render Layer node, we can remove this by hitting X, we don't need it for this, and then let's insert an input node that's called a Viewer. The Viewer lets you preview what happens in the compositor, and the composite is the output of the render. So now let's also add a reroute node to connect these two to the same output later. You don't need this for that, but it just makes everything that much neater. So let's, from input, and Shift A to bring up this menu. Move a clip and select the clip. So now if you connect these two, and V will zoom out of the backdrop, and Alt V will zoom back in. The footage is shaky because we haven't applied our stabilization. And there are two ways to do this. You can do it by adding a distort node, stabilize 2D, add it in the middle, in between the movie clip and the output, and then select the data from the movie clip. And it's stabilized and nice. But this is very limited, so I don't like to use the stabilize 2D. Instead, I like to use the transform node and connect the image output to the transform input and then to the composite. Now it's still shaky. So, from the offset X, connected to the X of the transform, offset Y to Y, and then scale to scale. We didn't actually use anything for the angle, so the angle won't change anything. There's a different track for that, and I can show you that in another episode. So now we have our stabilized footage again, and the benefit of using the transform node is that now all your data here is exposed, so you can manipulate this before the actual image. So it just, depending on what you want to do, the stabilized 2D is fine, but this just gives you more options if you want to animate the scale a bit later, or use these values for it just gives you more options basically. And then you just render, and if you have inserted anything into the video editing, that has right of way, sorry. So what you do that is post-processing and just turn off the sequencer, and it will render your output. And there you go. And then you just render the image file as you normally would by selecting output, format, encoding, and animation. And that's it. That's how you stabilize footage in Blender. So thank you for watching.